KB4KWZ, KB4GKI. Jerry, just want to let you know I was here. It finally let me in.
This is KB4KWZ, affirmative. This is the Emergency Communications Training Net. Again, this is the Emergency Communications Training Net. My name is Jerry. I'm located in Wraxall, North Carolina, and I'll be the net control operator for this evening's net. The purpose of the Emergency Communications Training Net is to train on emergency communications, techniques, equipment, and also different types of communications styles and digital modes. Okay, tonight we're going to be discussing on communications interference. What do we do when there is interference on the communications mode that we are communicating on? Before we get started on that, I want to recognize these stations that has logged in. The net is please recognize Scott, November, Oscar, Mike, Romeo, Zulu. Also, the net is please recognize KD, Niner, Juliet, Delta, Delta, Billy Marks. Also, the net is please recognize KI4, JMJ, Derek. And also, the net is please recognize KB4, GKI, Jimmy Holbrook in Wilkes County. Okay, I don't know if y'all had copied that. Again, this is the Emergency Communications Training Net, and my name is Jerry, and we're going to be discussing on radio communications interference tonight. And other nights we'll be discussing on other related topics pertaining to emergency communications. Again, we have, counting myself, we have 5 stations in the net. Okay, tonight, basically, radio communications interference. What is that? Well, radio communications interference can be divided up into 2 groups. You can have unintentional interference, or you can have intentional interference. The unintentional interference is really interference that none of us has control of to a certain extent, or interference that occurs not deliberately. That involves could be from your lights, fluorescent tubes. The ballast in fluorescent lights can create interference. It could be household appliance. It could be your neighbor down the street using his arc welding machine, or a generator, or some form of equipment that can create interference. There are also other types of interferences, and I know this topic can go very in depth, but tonight we're just going to touch base on different types of interferences here. Let me let the repeater drop. Okay, this is KB4KWZ. I didn't know what happened there. Sorry about that. The transmit locked up here, and I had to pull out and come back in. This is just the beauty of EchoLink here. Okay, we talked about a little bit about the unintentional interference. Also, we have weather interference. It could be from electrical storms, mainly electrical storms, or it could be atmospheric conditions relating to the sun. It also depends on if we are operating on HF radio, VHF, or UHF. HF is more susceptible to atmospheric conditions. Okay, the other type of interference is intentional. Okay, unfortunately, there's people out here, I hate to say it, that get their kicks off of trying to interfere with radio communications, nets, or anybody else that is communicating on the radio. And one important thing that we need to realize, if we're on an emergency communications net and there's a station having to come in trying to jam the frequency, the best thing to do is totally ignore that particular station. Because if you respond back to that station that is trying to jam the frequency, all you're doing is you're confirming to the jammer that he is succeeding in his efforts in jamming the frequency. In case that happens, the net control operator, if this is an actual emergency, we always have backup frequencies, and a lot of times we'll assign tactical designators to a frequency. So we can say go to tactical frequency 1, 2, or 3. And we'll send that out before an actual emergency does occur, or well, before the net come aboard, so that everybody will be on board of if we need to move. We happen to have that happen to us before, and unfortunately we moved and the jammer did not know what frequency we were going to. But we can go to frequency 2 or frequency 3, and those who are on the net will know what frequency 1, 2, or 3, or whatever number we give it, where to go to. So unfortunately, hopefully we don't have to ever do that. But the main thing we need to understand is if that ever does occur, in other words, if somebody gets on the net here or on any net and try to jam the frequency, the best thing to do is totally ignore them. Sometimes when you do that, they will go away. But when you acknowledge or make a comment about a station trying to jam the frequency, then all you just did is just make matters worse. Okay, this is KB4KWZ. I just wanted to bring that point out because basically I had that happen to several nets that I was on, and I know KB4GKI Jimmy can also vouch for that too. So again, let's don't give the jammer the pleasure that he is succeeding in his efforts. Okay, that is the training that we have tonight, and we have an announcement here. Basically, we're going to have a guest speaker coming up next Saturday for our training, and KB4GKI Jimmy in Wilkes County can go into a little bit of detail of that. KB4GKI, this is KB4KWZ. Go ahead, Jimmy, with your guest speaker announcement.
This is KB4GKI. Good evening to everybody on the net. The guy that's going to do the training next week, as far as we know right now, barring something don't change, His first name is Roy. He is the Surrey County Aries EC here in North Carolina. He has really took the time and done the studying and the background information on the wire mesh system, also known to some people as the intranet, not internet, but intranet. So it should be a pretty interesting training. It is something new and different, not a new technology, but probably new and different to a lot of us in amateur radio. So hopefully everybody can show up and tell all your friends so we can have a big turnout next week, okay, before GKI.
KB4GKI, this is KB4KWZ. Well, thank you very much, Jimmy, for that announcement. And like I stated earlier, we'll try to have different guest speakers to come aboard with their expertise in different areas. And hopefully in the future, we'll have a guest speaker from the WinLink development team to come aboard and talk about the WinLink system and using the forms on WinLink. Okay, that's the training. That's the announcement that we have. And let's go down the list here and get any general comments about what we briefly talked about and any other comments. Up on the list is Kilo Delta Niner Juliet Delta Delta. Good evening, Billy, and your comments for the net.
Good evening, Jerry. Good evening, everybody else out there. Yeah, I just haven't come across very much intentional interference on ham radio, but I have experienced it quite a bit on other modes of communications, and we're actually seeing our first snowflakes tonight. But that's about all I got. Hope everybody's having a good evening and a good weekend. KD9er JDD, standing by.
KD9er Juliet Delta Delta, this is KB4KWZ. Well, Billy, basically, you're right. There's not too much of the intentional jammers. There's more of the unintentional interference, more so than the intentional jammers. But sadly to say, they are out there, and I don't know why they do it. You know, they might have a beef with different types of nets, or they just want to feel like they can create havoc. But if it does occur, just follow the net control operator. Again, I say again, do not acknowledge them. Do not, when I mean acknowledge, just don't make a comment stating, well, I hear this particular station trying to sound like somebody's trying to key over everybody, or trying to make a noise, or what have you. That right there will create a really big mess. So if we have to, we will change frequency. And if there was an actual event to occur, like I stated before, we are always planning to have backup frequencies, backup repeaters that we can resort to. And a lot of times if it's an incident, what have you, we will get the word out in other words, what frequency 1 is, what frequency 2 is, what frequency 3 is, okay? And then if we say go to frequency 3, then we all know what that is. We can go to that. The jammer more likely will not know what that is. In most cases, we'll lose the jammer. But again, do not acknowledge any jammers. Good to have you on the net this evening, Billy. And let's move on down to KI4, Juliet Mike, Juliet, Derek. Good evening, Derek, and your comments for the net.
Good evening, Jerry and everyone. This is Derek, Kilo India 4, Juliet, Mike, Juliet. No comments. Haven't really run into any interference before. And so I have really nothing to add on to that comment other than, really, I'm about 3 hours south of you and we're under a freeze warning tonight. So, first one of the season. Hope everyone has a good evening, and back to net control. KI4JMJ73.
KI4JMJ, this is KB4KWZ. Yes, it's getting around that time of the year where everything's starting to get cold, and we hadn't hit the freeze down here as of yet. But I know it is coming. So tonight it's actually pretty comfortable outside right now. So anyway, good to have you on the net this evening, Derek, and looking forward to having you on with us next Saturday. Okay, the net moves on down to KB4GKI. Jimmy, good evening, Jimmy, and your comments.
So this is KB4GKI. Once again, good evening to everybody on the net. Let me make one thing perfectly clear. I hear this going on a whole lot on the VHF repeaters. If something starts happening on the repeater that they're on, they'll say, move to the other one. Well, where is the other one? They may know, but everybody that might need to know don't know. So that's what the FCC calls talking in ciphers and codes, and that is illegal for amateur radio. Let me let it beep. What we can do to avoid having to say that, or another thing they will say is move to channel 1, move to channel 2. That's also ciphers and codes. But what you can do is everybody have their HT or their mobile rig programmed the same, and you can say move to memory channel 2 or memory channel 1. And if everybody's radio is programmed the same, then you don't have to worry about where you're going or talking in ciphers and codes. And that's another way to get around that. There are organizations out here that are allowed to talk on their own frequencies and use designators, as the FCC calls it, codes. But we are not. So just food for thought on planning ahead of time and getting everything lined up. KB4GKI.
KB4GKI, this is KB4KWZ. You're absolutely right. I know certain agencies can use designators, and basically designators is a series of numbers and letters for a particular frequency. And on the ham radio, you're absolutely right. We're not allowed to do that. But you hit a key word at the very beginning is planning. So basically, we can go to, like you stated, move to memory channel 1 or move to channel 1, move to channel 2. So basically doing or before the exercise or the actual event takes place, then everybody will know what that is. Okay. Basically, during an exercise, our radios will be on that particular frequency. And we also will have a sheet. Actually, it's Jimmy, correct me if I'm wrong. I can't remember the number. It's an ICS form sheet that has listed frequencies that will be used during an exercise. What's ICS sheet number is that? It's a radio frequency sheet. Over.
This is KB4GK. I believe that is a 217. Over.
This is KB4KWZ. Yeah, that's right. I was trying to think what number. When you said 217, the light bulb came on my head. On the 217, it does have like channel 1, channel 2, channel 3 markings. So if everybody has that, then we know exactly if we need to move to that particular frequency. I know we had that during the DNC in Charlotte back many years ago. I had to turn in a 217 form with those frequencies on there under different channels. So we could have very well have stated, if we were holding a net from the EOC, if we had to, we could let everybody know to move to certain channels. But hopefully we'll never ever have to do that. That is a last resort. But I just want to the main thing I just want to get across is that we never acknowledge a jammer. I know sometimes they can get under your skin and be a nuisance, but sometimes you just have to keep on going. So anyway, thank you very much for that tidbit of information. You're absolutely right. Do not use designators for frequencies like go to Alpha Kilo 9 or 1 frequency. That is a designator, or could be used as a designator. A designator could be any numbers or letters combined together for a frequency. The ham radio group people are not allowed to do that, and Mr. Holbrook pointed that out. So that's a fine line. Got to be careful. But if it comes to a very bad intentional jamming and everybody knows what channel 1 is, we can go say move to channel 1. So then everybody moves to that. So hopefully we'll never have to do that. Okay, let's move on down to KB4NET, Bill. Good evening, Bill, and your comments for the net.
KB4NET in the group, and good discussion, and I've thankfully not had to deal with much interference over the years of my ham radio career, but it does happen, so good advice. I don't have anything else here, I don't think. I'm a little bit hoarse tonight, I'm getting over a cold, but good to hear folks on there, and thank you, Jerry, and that's all I have. Back to net, KB4NET.
KB4NET, this is KB4KWZ. Well, Bill, you did sound a little bit hoarse, but not too much. So just rest your voice, take it easy. Like my mom always said, drink a lot of fluids. I know you probably heard a lot of home remedies, but take care of yourself. Okay, this is KB4KWZ. That is the list as I have it right now. I also want to let everybody know that we're streaming live over YouTube. The past couple nights, past couple Saturday nights, I may say. There have been a little bit of problems, mainly on my end, and then there's one that was on YouTube. I don't know what happened, but tonight I checked it, and we are streaming live right now. And you can go to our website, that is Echo Mike, Charlie, Oscar, Mike, November, Echo Tango.org. That's, I say again, that's Echo Mike, Charlie, Oscar, Mike, November, Echo Tango.org. When you get at the website, up there at the top or near the top, will be a link that you can click on, and during the net, you can listen into the net by YouTube. But anyway, that's the training that we have this evening. Is there anybody want to make additional comments or have any business that we need to discuss? If so, please call KB4KWZ. Okay, this is KB4KWZ. I want to thank everyone who took the time to join us this evening on our net. And please get the word out. Next Saturday, we're going to have a guest speaker here for the training. I'm going to be really interested in learning from him about the new type of communications. All I see it is just another tool in our tool bag, so to speak. And let's get the message out that we're here every Saturday evening, and hopefully we'll get some more guest speakers. And when guest speakers do occur, we'll let everybody know week in advance about the guest speaker. Okay, this is KB4KWZ. Want to thank everyone who took the time to join us this evening. And we also want to thank the people at JARS allowing us to use their repeater and their EchoLink. And again, thanks to everyone who checked in this evening. This is KB4KWZ, now signing clear, and everyone have a good evening. Out.